How you guys doing today? It's Anthony Gangi. Welcome to another episode of Tear Talk. Guys, this is a great episode. Today we're going to be talking about how inmates try to earn trust with us. It's a very serious topic because, again, guys, if we fall into trusting an inmate, it can open up a whole Pandora's box. Now, mind you, they can trust us, but we're never in a position to trust them. And we're going to go over 4 games that inmates will play to earn that trust. My guest today is going to be Russ Hamilton. But before I call him on, let's get these sponsors. We have American Military University. If you guys are looking to get a degree, seek higher level of education, bring some experience into the classroom, please check out American Military University. They're very supportive of what we do in corrections, also very supportive of what we do here on Tear Talk. And we also have Guardian RFID from inmate tracking and cell checks to cloud-based business and artificial intelligence. Guardian RFID digitally transforms jails, prisons, and juvenile detention facilities of every size. Visit guardianrfid.com for more information. And guys, Inmate Manipulation Decoded, that book is now available. It's on Amazon. Link to that is in the description. And also my latest book, Lessons Learned While Working in a Prison, My Journey from Officer to Administration. Guys, there is tons of tips and advice from myself and many others in the profession that will help you be the best you could be in this corrections profession. So if you guys get a chance, please check out that book. That link is also in the description. Russ, what's up, brother?
Anthony, how you doing, brother?
Good. Russ, you mind introducing yourself to our audience?
Not at all. My name is Russ Hamilton. I am a former and retired sergeant from California Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation. I am also a former senior correctional officer for a juvenile detention facility. I am also currently working with a private company where we do reentry and rehabilitation work through a contract that we have with a local probation department and a local jail where I serve as a case manager for those cases.
All right. And Russ has made it from custody to rehabilitation. That's awesome. Getting to see the full circle of corrections. Hey, so I got a message on Instagram from Megan McPherson. She said she's in her first week. Mind you, this is just orientation week and not even formal training. That starts next week. And she learned how to pat search and strip search. She strip searched a fresh booking and a huge chunk of fentanyl dropped from one of the 8 bras she was wearing. And she also assisted in restraining an uncooperative inmate. All of that to say, I watch a ton of your videos and they help me solidify my decision to become a CO and have helped even in my first week. Little tips and tricks kept popping up and I definitely found them useful. Just wanted to share and encourage you to keep doing what you're doing. It's very helpful. You know what's good, Russ, is that we give out this advice, but the courage comes in the application of the advice. So bravo, Megan. Well done, Russ. She found fentanyl, man.
Absolutely. You know, that's a huge danger. Kudos on the first day making an impact play like that. That's fantastic. All that I'll really say beyond that is please be careful, Megan. Dealing with this fentanyl, I've dealt with it. I've lost participants that have overdosed from it. I've had, officers that I've known overdose just by being in the presence of it. So let's be really, really careful out there, but keep making those impact plays. We have to do those things to keep things safe down the road, even though at that moment in time, sometimes we have to take that risk. Sometimes we have to face that danger.
Hey, guys, way Russ is saying impact play. I'm reading a book now, or just got done reading it, called Impact Players. And basically, one of the things they mentioned in the book is that impact players know how to take things to the finish line. And that looks like what Megan did. She went through 8 bras to get that fentanyl. Well done. Okay, so this is a very needed topic, guys, because this is definitely something an inmate will do. It is a game that they will play. I mean, trust and believe, guys. You want to open up, if an inmate's looking to open up Pandora's box, they're going to try to earn that trust between you and them. And me and Russ came up with 4 things that we'd like to discuss, 4 games that inmates may play in an effort to garner that trust. We had 5, but when we were thinking about it, and I'll go to this one first, feeling of obligation. I mean, to me, that kind of is the foundation for all the game that the inmate's going to play. Basically, I do for you, so I'm the inmate, I do for you, and then I expect you to do something for me in return. And believe it or not, I know this may sound crazy, but when you're building trusting relationships, usually trusting relationships are built. They're built on what we can do for each other in our efforts to move forward in what we feel would be a positive way. So again, feelings of obligation is, hey, you did something for me. Now I have to do something for you because I don't want this feeling of obligation, so we look to, alleviate that feeling. So again, the building of relationship, the exchanging of favors could turn into some level of trust. And people may think it's superficial, but to be honest with you guys, trust is built when we're there for each other. So think about that. You're there for me, I'm there for you, and that's a trust that's built on, we're obligated. I have to help Russ because Russ has helped me. I mean, imagine if Russ really needed something and I told Russ no, and look at all the shows that Russ has ever done. Look at the shows that Russ done for me. I have to return the favor. So again, obligation could build some level of trust. Would you agree with that, Russ?
Absolutely. And that's why it's so dangerous. All these obligations that get built up, the inmate's been in there, putting in some kind of work for you, being able to, keep your head above water, doing a good job. And then over time also, there's that diminishment of that idea that you can't trust an inmate. And you start to fall into that trap about, the complacency of routine. Well, we've been here, we've been doing this. And you know what? Having a bunch of, really trustworthy inmate clerks is a really good idea. And I'll tell you a couple of my experiences as we get into this thing a little bit more. But just be advised, that's part of the game, is to take you, off of your, code yellow, your code orange mental mindset and make you feel relaxed. And then they're able to find a way to breach security, do something that potentially, not only impact safety and security, but potentially lives and health as well.
And the key is relaxed. That's a key word that Russ just said, because relax is complacency. Let's be honest, All right, so Russ, when we were going through, I think this was the first one that we decided that we should hit up first, and it's called they share something personal in their effort to connect. So how do you break this down, Russ?
So to me, this one kind of comes in two basic flavors that I've had inmates try this one on me. And the first one is they try and minimize the type of inmate that they are. And it may even be true to some extent. They try and minimize the crime that they did. Well, none of my crimes were violent crimes. None of my crimes were all that serious. Or, this was just a one-time thing in my life. I got caught the one time that I tried to do something. And boy, have I learned my lesson. I'm going to change. I'm going to get out there. I'm never coming back to this place again, on and on. And so that's the first one. So you start to try and think of this inmate as, well, he's not as bad as all these other gang bangers out here. He's not even really involved with a gang, perhaps. And he tries to put himself in that position where you view him as not as bad as the other inmates. And that's a mental trick. That's psychology. And it can be very effective if you're not watching out for it. The other one is for them to try and, build a personal relationship with you by commonalities, right? And by commonalities, what I mean is this, is they will tell you something, and it can be false or true. My uncle, he's a deputy sheriff. My brother is a police officer, and they try and build that commonality with you. And what it does is it diminishes our level of caution. It diminishes our level of, being wary of that inmate. And it puts us once again back into that whole idea about being relaxed. This is not an inmate. This is somebody that I can trust.
Yeah. So guys, remember this, guys. When it comes to they share something personal in their efforts to connect. I think this would also be a little bit more of a foundation as well, but they're trying to bring you closer. So it's weird because there's two games being played by the manipulative inmate at this point. One is they want to pull you away from your peers, right? So there's some level of isolation. But they're also, believe it or not, at the same time, they're trying to take themselves out of their connection with their peers. So as you can see, you got, I'm in my group with my peers. They're in their group with their peers. And what they're trying to do is let me step out of that group so you could just see me as an individual, not as an inmate, but let me also pull you away from your group so, you don't stay connected to people that can be a conflict to the game that I'm going to play. And I like what Russ said, because there is a sharing of personal information here. There is a building of a bond that they're trying to do to pull you out of your prescribed roles. So hence, if you don't see yourself as an officer, then there's a good chance you don't see me as an inmate. And again, if you don't see me as an inmate, there's a good chance you don't see yourself as an officer within this relationship. So mind you, you could go ahead and be an officer with anybody else, but with me, we're going to be buddies. We're going to be fans of the same sport, or we're going to be fathers, because I talk about my father issues, you talk about your father issues. And again, there's a connection there that's meant where if you're dealing with this inmate, you don't see them as an inmate. And the funny thing is, you could start to see that play in effect when you start to justify your relationship with that inmate, especially by justifying that, oh, they're not like every other inmate. Remember, catch yourself saying that. Catch yourself in moments where you feel that you want to see that inmate. You better ask yourself why. Do you want to see that inmate because it relates to the job? Or do you want to see them because of something personal that you want to share or express? So again, guys, I think that was a good one to start off with, that sharing of something personal in their effort to connect, because they're going to connect on that commonality. And yes, guys, through routine interaction, whatever it is, it's a way to exploit trust. It truly is a way to exploit some levels of trust. So I think that's a very strong foundation, the pulling you out of your prescribed role to connect on some personal commonality. So I don't see you as an inmate, and then you don't see me as an officer. So we also have, I love this one. Let's get this one out of the way, Russ. The ultimate feeling of obligation, again, kind of like the foundation as we discussed, but they offer to protect you. We've discussed this before, but Russ, real quick, Russ, that offer to protect you, I mean, what does that say?
That usually, to me, indicates that for whatever reason, they view you as someone that would accept that. They view you as someone who would say, well, yeah, I'm going to look out for you too. I think that the view when they offer that up is, for whatever reason, they view you as weak, inept, and unable to look out for yourself out there on that yard. What they want in a case like that is they want reciprocity. And that reciprocity can come along at any time. Hey, they've been protecting you. They may even kind of stage up a little something that makes it look as if they are. And then somewhere along the way, something goes bad for them, that dope deal or whatever. Officer, can you just flush that? Just that way you got no paperwork or whatever. At some point, they are going to expect something from you. And you know what? When they say something like that, you want to immediately document it. You want to immediately make sure that they know that you're documenting it. And depending on what the particulars are of your policy and procedure, I would be putting an individual like that, if it falls within the parameters, in ADSEG to do an investigation. Because if they're doing this to you, they've probably done it to someone else, and there may be an issue with regards to that in that immediate unit. So there's a lot to unpack in that there, but I'm just telling you from the viewpoint of my experiences and the way I looked at things, I never view things in isolation. So when you think about what an inmate is doing, think about them not as much doing it to you as they've probably done it to other people.
Yeah, and guys, when an inmate says they're offering to protect you, it's like, what are you protecting me from? I mean, think about this, guys. Your life at that facility could be taken at any moment. And when you trust somebody with your life, I mean, that's a hell of a trust to give somebody. And again, that's a hell of an obligation to have. I mean, someone saves your life. Some people have considered that a life debt, a debt that you have to pay back for the rest of your life. So you don't want to just give that to anybody. Inmate comes up and says, I'm offering to protect you. What they're saying is, hey, give me that life debt. Give me that life debt. I'm going to do you a solid. If anything happens, I got your back. I'll save you from getting hurt. And in return, what are you going to do for me? I mean, again, that's a crazy debt to put into an inmate's hands. I mean, I'm willing to put that into my peers' hands because they're my coworkers. They're the ones that are meant to have my back because they know in return I'll have theirs. And the trust that we build for each other is really, between me and my peers, is really built on the knowledge that whenever something happens, I'm here for you. And that's the people that you go to when you need that protection. And also when the inmate says, I got your back, I'll protect you, he's also saying that your peers can't, that your peers are weak. Don't go to them. Come to me. The moment you accept that inmate's protection is the moment that you put that inmate in front of your peers. Remember that, because that's a life debt. That offer of protection is not something superficial that you should go bragging about either, because I've seen people do that. Oh, don't worry, I have no problem in the unit. Inmate Smith, he has my back. And they believe that I have no problem with the gangs. The head of the gang, he said he's got my back. He'll help me run the unit. Think about what you are saying. Think about what you're saying. You just gave everything over to him, this inmate, and at the end of the day, I should be over here. When you start doing that, guys, you're becoming further and further away from your peers. So mind you, every sign or everything that we're telling you, when the inmate tries to garner that level of trust, it's bringing you closer to them. So again, if you accept an inmate's effort to protect you, what you're also accepting is the fact that I don't trust my peers. That's what you're saying. So remember that. Again, that pushes you closer towards the inmate. So be wary of those offers. And like Russ said, if the inmate's offering to protect you, I would go ahead and, what are you protecting me from? Come on, let's get this. Let's see what I need protection from. Let's get this investigated. Let's get this inmate brought up by a supervisor, and let's start getting some documentation done. Because at the end of the day, I don't need protection from you. But if there's information, let's filter it. Let's see what you got to say. Because obviously, if I need protection, I want to know what from. So I that's spot on. And by the way, I just want you to know this. We didn't just make this up. There are people that work in this profession that will openly admit that they accept protection from an inmate when they're running a unit. And I'm sure Russ has heard it too. We've seen it. I like this one, Russ, here. Giving you meaningless intel. What does that mean?
This is a real pet peeve of mine, because what happens is you do develop relationships with inmates that are your porters or that are your clerks and stuff. And you know what? Sometimes they'll offer up information. About 99% of the time, I'm going to tell you, though, that they're not snitches, right? They're giving you stuff that you could go out there and find out for yourself, and that's probably true. Hey, you know what? The Crips and Bloods, they're going to go at it today. And sure enough, they go at it, right? But this was something that anyone could have told you that as any type of correctional acumen whatsoever. I used to have this supervisor that he would always say, well, I'm building rapport with the inmates by giving them back the stuff that you guys took. I go, what are you doing, dude? You're undermining us. You're undercutting our authority, and they're giving you bogus bullshit intel. Well, some of it was real, but it was all stuff that could be had just by stepping outside your office, taking a look around, and going, oh yeah, they're not giving up where the dope is. They're not giving up where the cell phones are. So what are they giving up? All right, those are the things that have monetary and intrinsic value to the inmates. So they're giving you up a bunch of bullshit about gangs, which we already know which gangs hate each other. And yeah, someone might be going out there and getting stabbed or something. But if they're giving you that, they might already have permission from whichever gang to run that by you so they can get us to bite on something or remove someone on the yard, so they don't necessarily have to do the stabbing or whatever because it wasn't worth their time and effort. So, grain of salt. I've run my fair share of confidential human sources, as we'll call them, or whether you want to call them snitches or confidential informants. But you know what? They have to be giving you something that's real. And that doesn't mean that you reciprocate with favors either. It's a hard line that you have to take. But I've seen people just always want to take the easy way, and they don't realize they're not actually getting anything of value for what's going on.
Yes. And also, guys, when it comes to this giving you meaningless intel, like Russ said, this is really also sometimes all about control, too. I think sometimes they give you meaningless intel to see what you're going to do with it. Also, in some cases here, they may also tell you some of these things in an effort of confidence to see what your reaction is going to be. And they're going to tell you things that they know you should report. They may say like, hey, I'm going to tell you something, but you can't tell anybody. And then some people would be like, okay, what are you going to tell me? And they tell them. And then the next day, the inmate, could be expecting some reaction to it. Nothing happens. The inmate knows, okay, I got this person because I just told them something that he should have reported or that she should have reported, and they didn't. So I definitely got some level of control or some level of confidence between me and this individual. When an inmate came up to me and would say, hey, Gangi, can I tell you something, but you can't tell anybody else? And I'll say, be careful of telling me then, because I don't know what you're going to tell me. So I don't know what I'm going to have to do with the information, but I want you to know something. There are no secrets between me and you. Because another known game is I tell you a little something, and then I'm hoping that you tell me a little something back. And then we start building this level of trust based on, hey, I give you some information, and then you give me some information. And next thing you know, you wind up feeling obligated, and this inmate gives you some bullshit information, and then you're telling him, hey, your area is going to be searched in a few minutes. You might as well start cleaning up. I got you. Think about that, guys, because don't tell me that doesn't happen, because I know it does. I know that does. In an effort to help that inmate who's helping you, you wind up giving him the heads up that maybe a search is coming, and just to, make sure his area is where it's supposed to be. But again, guys, that sharing of little intel, little meaningless intel, especially in confidence, it's definitely a game that opens up a door to Pandora's box, because next thing you know, again, it falls back into the obligation where you feel obligated to help this inmate out because they're giving you all this intel, which in the end, it doesn't add up to anything. It really just doesn't add up to anything. All it does is show them that they control you. I mean, that's pretty much what it really does. Okay, Russ, last one, making themselves indispensable. Favors. What's your thoughts on that, Russ?
Okay, so I've had inmates try this with me before, especially like I go back to some clerks and stuff that I've had, and those guys, they get in there and they do a great job, and they're in there taking care of stuff before anything else can happen, and your paperwork's done, and it gives you a chance to relax. It gives you a chance to sit back. And, all you got to do is sign that thing, and you start thinking about it, and you think, wow, if I didn't have this particular inmate, he's made my life so easy. You know what? I wonder what I can do for him to help make his life a little bit easier. I wonder how I could facilitate that. And the problem with that is that's just another one of the games that an inmate goes in there, does a great job, maybe does a better job than anyone else has ever done, and makes you look great to the other things that are happening around you, because you don't have to deal with some paperwork or something. And then, when push comes to shove, hey, got a little something extra, and I would just like not to get written up for it or whatever. And personally had that one played on me in a situation that was so big you can't even imagine how bad it was, because the inmate had co-opted and corrupted another individual, and was actually had a fraud going on in the local community, and had all kinds of contraband coming in. And fortunately, I didn't fall for that. because I knew that something else was there. So, and I'll tell you, he was a great clerk. Things ran smooth, things ran great. But when push came to shove, I just was like, man, I just know that somehow, some way, this is bad right now because of the way he approached me. And sure enough, it was. And ended up leading to the very first cell phone that was ever found at that particular institution. So, gives you some idea of what the impact of that was like.
Yeah, and guys, I'm going to tell you something. When it comes to the favor, be careful of that word too. Favor implies that you have to pay back. And, you know, I remember maintenance workers too. They would be so good at the job that we become very dependent on them. And having said that, they're inmate workers. You know, you should never get to the point where you're so dependent on them that you can't replace them. Remember that, because sometimes they want to be put on that pedestal, because in the end, they can utilize that. Hey, the more you see me in high regard, the more you see me as irreplaceable, the more I can use that in my favor. That's why you got to be careful, too, when you praise inmates. You know, you could praise them, yes, appreciate their work, I get it, but got to be careful when you put them on such a pedestal that they're able to separate themselves and feel irreplaceable, because they will utilize that. You know, they will utilize that, especially some that will get to know the work so well, the stuff that they have to do, probably even better than the people that supervise them. And next thing you know, out of desperation, we want to run to their we want to run for their assistance. And next thing you know, they help. And then it's like, yo, I need something from you now. Remember that time I helped out with that flood where you needed somebody immediately, and here I was, and I dug in. Well, this is what I need from you. And it's like, whoa, hold on. Doesn't work that way. I'd rather pay the vendor to come in next time. So we're not going to do that. And you make it known. At the end of the day, you got some out of cell time when you fix the flood. It is what it is. You're able to come out for an hour out of your cell, and, you got a little break from being in that cell. So that's my gift to you, but if you're going to play that card and say, well, I saved you from going to a vendor, so what are you going to do for me? I'm going to fire you. I'm going to fire you, and next time I'll call the vendor. I mean, it's that simple. You cannot be so reliant on an inmate that they literally will feel that they're irreplaceable. At the end of the day, guys, I know it's tough. I know some inmates could do jobs better than others, but in the end, guys, if they know that and you make them aware of that, trust and believe they will utilize that to their advantage. So at the end of the day, make sure that, at any moment, if I got to replace this inmate, I'm willing to do that. Even as I've seen supervisors that have been so happy with the inmate's work that when the inmate got in trouble, the supervisor's like, we're not going to write that inmate up. I need him to clean my office. Hey, stop. Get another inmate to clean your office. If it's more time that you have to invest in training another inmate, so be it. Spend that time to invest and train another inmate, but get that inmate out. Because the moment that inmate's utilizing you to curry favor, that relationship has gone past the professional side. Now you're being used. So be careful of that indispensable, because that happens a lot. Trust and believe that happens a lot. And at the end of the day, I will tell you one thing. When you see yourself defending an inmate's negative behavior because of the stuff they've done for you in the past, you should step away and ask yourself, are you too close? Because at the end of the day, did the inmate deserve to be charged? Yes. Why wasn't he? Because he cleans your office? Really? So you just disenfranchise your staff from doing their job because this inmate cleans your office and makes you a good cup of coffee. Please. Hey, Russ, anything you'd like to say in closing?
Yeah, there's a lot to unpack here. I think that, if you just go into your area and start thinking about this in the terms that we've laid out for you, you'll start to see what the potential is. And maybe it hasn't even been exploited yet. That's why you need to go in there and also train all of your staff. Use this video if you want, and just be able to, point out how inmates can get over on us. Happens all the time. I remember very early on in my career, I mean, like within the first 6 months, this lieutenant called two of the guys I was working with into his office, and he told them, hey, just be quiet and just listen for a second. And they could hear little scraping sounds. And they went up there and they got the keys and they went down into the plumbing chase, and they could see through the vent in there. And this inmate, sure enough, man, he was sharpening up a shank. Well, that inmate happened to be a porter on the other side of the unit, which was death row. So I want you to think about that for a second. We were utilizing porters for death row, not a condemned inmate, but porters, from the general population side, to run food and everything else up there when the dumbwaiter and stuff would break, and to be able to do some light housekeeping chores. And they were making weapons. Well, where were those weapons going to end up? Well, they're going to end up in the necks of staff, probably. So just be careful. Last thing also, shout out to Megan again. Great job on the fentanyl. I keep thinking about that, and makes me wish that I was still in the game a little bit.
You still are, Russ, just a different capacity.
Yeah. Well,
again,
I can say right now, there are some things that I can't talk about right now.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. And great job, Megan. And guys, again, great video here. Just a quick, discussion on how do you know an inmate's getting too close to you. So guys, just remember, if you feel yourself moving closer towards the inmate, go back and reevaluate and what's going on. Why am I moving towards him and further away from my peers? Or why am I moving towards her and further away from my peers? Don't be afraid to ask yourself those questions, because when this first starts, you're the only person that could correct it right away, because you're going to feel those feelings. But eventually your behavior is going to reflect those feelings, and that's when it becomes a little bit different. So, as always, guys, the show is Tear Talk. If you haven't, please subscribe, interact, engage, comment, hit that bell. Bell's going to notify you every time I post a video. Stay safe.